Number 1. The Abby Choi Murder. Behind the glittering skyline of Hong Kong, where unimaginable wealth meets relentless ambition, a nightmare was quietly taking shape in the shadows. To the outside world, Abby Choi lived a life most could only dream of. She was a 28-year-old international model, a celebrated socialite, and a fixture at the most exclusive fashion weeks in Paris and Milan. Her face graced the covers of prestigious magazines, and her gentle, generous nature won the hearts of millions. But perfection is often an illusion, and the brighter the light, the darker the shadow it casts. If you are fascinated by the hidden darkness behind perfect lives, make sure to subscribe and join us as we uncover these chilling stories. For Abby, the darkness was not a stranger lurking in an alleyway. It was intimately familiar. Despite her new, happy marriage and booming career, she remained deeply tethered to her past. She financially supported her former husband, Alex Kwong, and his entire family, even purchasing a luxury apartment for them to live in. She believed she was helping those she once called family, completely unaware that her kindness was watering the seeds of her own destruction. On February 21, 2023, Abby stepped into a car driven by her ex-brother-in-law, who worked as her personal chauffeur. She was on her way to pick up her daughter from school. It was an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, bathed in the gentle winter sun. But Abby never arrived at the school. She vanished without a single trace, leaving her loved ones in a state of frantic terror. The police immediately launched a massive search, tracing her last known movements, but nothing could have prepared them for the unspeakable horror waiting at the end of the trail. How could someone vanish in broad daylight, surrounded by people they trust? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If this mystery already has a grip on you, please drop a like on this video. You will not believe what the detectives found waiting inside a quiet village house.
The desperate search for the missing socialite led investigators away from the neon lights of the city and deep into the quiet, unassuming suburban village of Lungmei Tran. They zeroed in on a recently rented, unfurnished ground floor apartment. The windows were heavily covered with dark tarpaulins, blocking out any sunlight and hiding whatever was happening inside from the prying eyes of neighbors. When authorities finally breached the doors on February 24, a wave of profound dread washed over them. This was not a hideout used for a kidnapping. It was a meticulously planned slaughterhouse. Inside the barren rooms, the police found chilling tools of destruction. There was a meat slicer, an electric saw, heavy-duty gloves, and face shields. But it was the contents of the kitchen that would shock the world and cement this case as one of the most brutal in modern history. Inside a large refrigerator, detectives discovered the dismembered remains of the beautiful, vibrant woman who had graced magazine covers just weeks prior. Worse still, resting on the stove were two large stainless steel soup pots containing human tissue. The sheer cold-blooded brutality of the scene left seasoned investigators entirely speechless. The people responsible for this unimaginable savagery were not random psychopaths. They were the very people Abby had fed, clothed, and housed. The horrific orchestration was allegedly led by her former father-in-law, a former police officer who used his knowledge of criminal investigations to plan the perfect, untraceable murder. They intended to erase her completely from the face of the earth, turning a mother and daughter into nothing more than a fading memory. What pushes a family to commit such an unspeakable act of betrayal against someone who only showed them generosity? Tell me what you think in the comments below. Drop a like if you are stunned by the sheer calculated evil of this crime. The motive behind this absolute butchery is even more sickening than the crime.
The catalyst for this gruesome nightmare was something as old as time itself: pure, unadulterated greed. Abby Choi had recently decided to sell the luxury multi-million-dollar apartment located in the elite Kaduri Hill neighborhood, the very property she had purchased under her former father-in-law's name to save on taxes. She promised to relocate the Kwong family to another comfortable home, but the mere thought of losing their grip on her immense wealth sent them into a murderous rage. They realized that if Abby were to die before resolving the property dispute, her assets would fall into the hands of her children, whom the Kwong family had partial custody of. And so, a family of parasites decided to slaughter their host. Following the gruesome discovery, a massive manhunt was launched.
Abby's ex-husband, Alex Kwong, was intercepted by authorities at a pier. He was carrying over $60,000 in cash and several luxury watches, desperately waiting for a speedboat to flee the territory. He, along with his father, mother, and brother, were all arrested and dragged out of the shadows to face justice. The Abby Choi murder sent a chilling shockwave across the globe. It shattered the illusion of safety that wealth often provides and served as a haunting reminder that the most dangerous monsters do not always hide in the dark. Sometimes they sit across from you at the dinner table, smiling, while quietly plotting your absolute destruction. The world mourned a bright light extinguished by the darkest depths of human avarice, leaving behind a legacy of beauty violently overshadowed by a tragedy that defies all logic and humanity. But while a dispute over luxury real estate drove one family to madness, our next story proves that the darkest betrayals can come from an even closer bond. Imagine looking into the innocent eyes of your own flesh and blood, only to decide they are standing in the way of your new romantic life.
Number 2. Chongqing Toddler Murders. The idea of looking into the innocent eyes of your own flesh and blood, only to decide they are standing in the way of your new romantic life, is exactly what shattered the peaceful city of Chongqing in the autumn of 2020. Zhang Bo seemed like an ordinary young man, recently divorced and simply trying to navigate life. He shared custody of a 2-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old son from his previous marriage. His ex-wife was a devoted mother, trusting that despite their bitter separation, the children would always be cherished and safe with their father. But Zhang harbored a sinister secret. He was desperately trying to build a new life with a wealthy, glamorous new girlfriend named Ye Changchen. Ye was accustomed to getting exactly what she wanted, and what she demanded was a completely clean slate. She could not accept the existence of his children. She viewed the toddlers as a heavy burden, a permanent tie to his past, and a dark stain on their future together. The tension between the secret lovers quickly reached a boiling point. Ye presented Zhang with a chilling, non-negotiable ultimatum. She would only marry him if the children were gone forever. She began to heavily manipulate him, constantly pushing him to prove his unwavering devotion. Zhang faced an impossible crossroads. He had to choose between the innocent toddlers who shared his blood or the alluring woman promising him a life of luxury and passion. The decision he made would plunge an entire family into unimaginable grief. On a seemingly normal November afternoon, the unthinkable happened. The quiet courtyard of their high-rise apartment building was shattered by a sound that neighbors would never forget. The 2 helpless toddlers plummeted from the 15th floor, their small lives extinguished on the cold pavement below. How could a father ever agree to such a demonic demand just to appease a new lover? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If this mystery already has a grip on you, please drop a like on this video. The way Zhang tried to cover his tracks will leave you completely speechless.
In the immediate aftermath of the tragedy, Zhang Bo rushed down to the courtyard in a frantic panic. He threw himself onto the ground beside the broken bodies of his children, screaming and sobbing uncontrollably. To the gathering crowd of horrified neighbors and arriving paramedics, he appeared to be a grieving father, absolutely shattered by an unspeakable accident. He wailed that he had been asleep in the other room, claiming the children must have climbed onto the balcony window and fallen while playing unsupervised. His performance was incredibly convincing. He beat his chest in agony, tears streaming down his face, painting the tragic picture of a man whose entire world had just ended. For a fleeting moment, the police and the public deeply believed the heartbreaking narrative of a preventable, fatal accident. But seasoned investigators are trained to look past the tears and focus on the silent evidence left behind. As detectives carefully examined the 15th floor apartment, the pieces of the puzzle stubbornly refused to fit. The height of the balcony railing was simply too high for a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old to scale on their own. The dust on the windowsill was disturbed in a way that suggested someone much larger had leaned heavily over it. Furthermore, the grieving mother of the children, entirely destroyed by the sudden loss, immediately suspected foul play. She knew her ex-husband better than anyone, and she knew in her bones he was lying. She begged the police to dig deeper, convinced that her precious babies did not just slip and fall. The authorities seized Zhang's mobile phone and began the arduous process of recovering deleted messages, slowly unearthing a digital trail of pure evil. The frantic, tearful father playing the victim in the courtyard was nothing more than a carefully constructed mask. What would drive a person to fake such profound grief while knowing their own hands committed the atrocity? Tell me what you think in the comments below. Drop a like if you are stunned by the sheer calculated evil of this crime. The deleted messages revealed a countdown to murder that will turn your blood cold.
The recovered digital evidence laid bare a conspiracy so vile it shocked the entire nation of China to its core. For months, Zhang Bo and Ye Chengchen had been meticulously plotting the demise of the two toddlers. Over countless chilling text messages, they debated the best methods to eliminate the children, treating their innocent lives like mere obstacles in a twisted romantic game. Ye constantly pressured Zhang, threatening to slit her own wrists if he did not go through with the murders. She pushed him, psychologically manipulated him, and ultimately orchestrated the slaughter from afar. On that fatal November day, while the children were playing innocently near the open window, Zhang grabbed both of them by their tiny legs and hurled them out into the abyss without a second thought. The shocking revelation of this cold-blooded execution sparked absolute outrage across Chinese social media and the international press. Millions of people demanded swift and severe justice for the two little souls who had been violently betrayed by their own protector. In a highly publicized and emotional trial, the true faces of the monstrous couple were revealed to the world. They were stripped of their lies and forced to confront the horror they had unleashed. The court found them both equally guilty of intentional homicide, declaring their motives extremely despicable and their means utterly cruel. Justice, though painfully delayed, was absolute. In January 2024, both Zhang Bo and Ye Chengchen were executed, paying the ultimate price for their unimaginable sins. The mother of the children finally found a small sliver of peace, knowing the monsters who stole her universe had been permanently eradicated. Yet the tragedy lingers in the air, a dark reminder of the profound evil that can hide behind the promise of love. But while a father destroyed his children for a new romance, our next story proves that marital vows can be just as deadly. Imagine sharing your bed, your home, and your life with a partner, unaware that they are slowly planning to erase you, piece by piece, and flush your existence.
Number 3. Hangzhou Dismemberment Case. The chilling reality of sharing your bed with someone secretly planning to erase your existence became a waking nightmare in the bustling city of Hangzhou in July 2020. Lai Huili, a 53-year-old woman, vanished overnight from her secure, heavily surveilled apartment complex. Her husband, Xu Guoli, calmly reported her missing, claiming she had simply walked out while he was sleeping. He immediately went on local television news, flawlessly playing the part of a deeply concerned partner. He looked directly into the cameras, shedding tears and pleading with the public for any help to bring his beloved wife safely home. The community rallied around his tragic story. The police launched a massive investigation, meticulously checking thousands of hours of closed-circuit television footage from every angle of the complex. But the footage revealed an impossible locked-room mystery. Lai Huili was never seen leaving the building. She had seemingly evaporated into thin air. How does a grown woman simply vanish from a high-rise building surrounded by modern security cameras? The investigation dragged on for agonizing weeks. Xu continued his relentless media tour, appearing increasingly exhausted to the sympathetic public. He gave extensive interviews inside their home, pointing out the clothes she had supposedly left behind and openly speculating about where he might have wandered off to in the middle of the dark night. But seasoned investigators were quietly growing suspicious of his perfectly rehearsed grief. The more he spoke to the press, the more the police began to focus their attention not on the busy streets of Hangzhou, but directly on the grieving husband himself. How easily could you look into a television camera and lie to millions of people while knowing the horrific truth? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If this mystery already has a grip on you, please drop a like on this video. The truth of what happened inside that quiet apartment is far more gruesome than anyone could have ever.
As the agonizing days turned into weeks without a single trace of Lai Huili on any neighborhood surveillance footage,
The authorities realized a chilling fact. She had never actually left the residential complex. The police rapidly shifted their massive search efforts inward, systematically tearing through the sprawling apartment building from top to bottom. They searched the rooftop, the damp underground parking garage, the dark elevator shafts, and the neighboring vacant apartments. Yet, there was absolutely no sign of a violent struggle, no hidden traces of blood, and no body to be found. Throughout this process, Xu Guoli casually watched the detectives' work, perfectly maintaining his elaborate facade of a desperate husband praying for a miracle. He even offered the exhausted police officers cold water and continuously thanked them for their tireless efforts. However, veteran detectives know that when the impossible is entirely eliminated, whatever remains must be the ultimate truth. Finding no evidence above ground, the police turned their undivided attention to the darkest, most unpleasant area of the entire residential complex, the communal septic tank. In the suffocating, sweltering July heat, specialized teams of sanitation workers began the grueling, sickening task of pumping out massive amounts of raw waste from the underground sewage system. It was a monumental undertaking involving dozens of industrial vacuum trucks and hours of nauseating labor. As they meticulously sifted through the toxic sludge, the baffling mystery of the missing woman was finally solved, but the answer brought only pure horror. Hidden deep within the dark sewage, investigators uncovered degraded human tissue. Rapid DNA testing quickly confirmed the unspeakable reality the police had feared. It was Lai Huili. Her husband had not just murdered her, he had systematically dismantled her physical existence. What goes through a person's mind as they meticulously destroy the person they vowed to love and protect? Tell me what you think in the comments below. Drop a like if you are stunned by the sheer calculated evil of this crime. The exact method he used to dispose of her remains will haunt your nightmares.
Faced with the undeniable forensic evidence pulled directly from the underground septic tank, Xu Guoli's carefully constructed mask of innocence finally shattered into pieces. Sitting in an interrogation room, he coldly confessed to the horrific crime, detailing a calculated sequence of events so brutal it left the entire nation of China in a state of profound shock and disgust. The motive, as is tragically common in these domestic nightmares, revolved around a bitter, ongoing dispute over money and property. Xu desperately wanted to give an apartment they jointly owned to his adult son from a previous marriage, but Lai had firmly and repeatedly refused his demands. In the early morning hours of July 5th, while his wife was deeply asleep, completely vulnerable and trusting the man lying beside her, Xu made his fatal move. He brutally suffocated her in their shared bed. Then, in a chilling display of cold-blooded detachment, he dragged her lifeless body into their bathroom. Using tools he had carefully hidden away from sight, he spent the next several hours meticulously dismembering her remains. He then slowly, piece by agonizing piece, flushed the smaller remains down the toilet drain and quietly discarded the rest in the community garbage bins over the following days. He thoroughly bleached and cleaned the entire bathroom, erasing every microscopic drop of blood before calmly picking up the phone to report her missing. His terrifying ability to perform such a gruesome butchery and then immediately play the weeping victim on national television terrified the global public. In July 2021, Xu Guoli was rightfully sentenced to death for his monstrous actions, and he was finally executed in 2023. His crime stands as a haunting, permanent testament to the absolute darkness that can hide behind a familiar, loving smile. But while this husband destroyed his wife for a piece of real estate, our next story proves that sometimes couples work perfectly together in the dark business of murder. Imagine a beautiful woman luring wealthy men into a trap, only for her brutal partner to step out of the shadows and turn a night of passion into a deadly hostage nightmare.
Number 4. Lao Rongzhi and Fa Ziying serial murders. The terrifying image of a beautiful woman luring wealthy men into a trap, only for her brutal partner to step out of the shadows and turn a night of passion into a deadly hostage nightmare, was the exact blueprint of terror executed by China's most notorious criminal couple. Throughout the late 1990s, businessmen across the country were vanishing into thin air, leaving behind only frantic demands for massive sums of cash. At the center of this blood-soaked web were Lao Rongzhi,
a highly educated and remarkably attractive former primary school teacher, and her older, deeply violent lover, Ziying. Together, they formed a perfectly balanced syndicate of seduction and slaughter. Lao was the undisputed bait. She would seamlessly blend into high-end nightclubs and luxury hotel bars, projecting an aura of innocence and charm. Wealthy, unsuspecting men, blinded by her captivating presence, would eagerly accept her invitations back to a private, secluded hotel room. They believed they were embarking on an evening of secret, unforgettable romance. Instead, the moment the heavy hotel door clicked shut, the carefully constructed fantasy violently shattered. Waiting silently in the darkest corners of the room was Ziying, armed, deeply sadistic, and entirely devoid of human empathy. He would spring from the shadows, violently subduing the disoriented victims before they could even process the absolute betrayal. The terrified men were immediately bound, gagged, and forced to endure unimaginable psychological and physical torment. The ruthless couple would then contact the victims' desperate families, demanding exorbitant ransoms in exchange for their safe return. But survival was never genuinely on the table. How would you react if the person you thought was the woman of your dreams suddenly transformed into the architect of your own brutal demise? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If this mystery already has a grip on you, please drop a like on this video. The horrific reality of what happened to these men after the ransom was paid will chill you to your very core.
The brutal reality of their horrific enterprise was that paying the steep ransom demands never actually guaranteed a safe return. Ziying was not just a kidnapper looking for a quick payout. He was a cold-blooded executioner who thrived on establishing absolute control. Once the frantic families delivered the bags of cash, hoping against all odds to see their loved ones again, the violent couple simply eliminated the only witnesses to their monstrous crimes. The victims were senselessly slaughtered, their bodies hidden away as the couple casually packed their bags and moved on to the next bustling metropolis to restart their deadly game. They traveled across multiple provinces, leaving a terrifying trail of broken families and baffled investigators in their wake. They were absolute ghosts, striking without warning and vanishing into the massive population of China before the authorities could even piece together a cohesive suspect profile. But no criminal enterprise, no matter how carefully orchestrated, can outrun the law forever. The turning point arrived in the summer of 1999. During a deeply botched kidnapping attempt in the city of Hefei, the local police finally managed to corner the violent enforcer. A massive, heavily armed standoff ensued, ending with Ziying being wounded and dragged out of his hideout in handcuffs. He was swiftly tried, convicted, and sent to the execution chamber, taking the deepest secrets of their violent partnership to the grave. The reign of terror seemed to be completely over, but the authorities quickly realized a deeply unsettling truth. The beautiful mastermind, the smiling bait who had lured so many men to their violent slaughter, had completely vanished. What level of dark intelligence does it take to watch your partner fall in a hail of gunfire and still manage to slip away entirely unseen? Tell me what you think in the comments below. Drop a like if you are stunned by the sheer calculated evil of this crime. The incredible way she managed to survive the next 2 decades will leave you questioning everything you know about justice. For 20 long, agonizing years, the elusive ghost of Lao Rongzhi haunted the Chinese authorities. She became one of the nation's most highly sought-after fugitives, a phantom who seemingly evaporated into the sprawling, heavily populated cities. But she was not hiding in a dark subterranean cave or frantically fleeing across international borders. The most terrifying aspect of her daring escape was how completely ordinary her new life became. She assumed several fake identities, working quietly in local bars, selling luxury watches in high-end shopping centers, and blending perfectly into the mundane, everyday background of modern society. She adopted small rescue dogs, casually chatted with unsuspecting neighbors, and lived a surprisingly peaceful life while the blood of innocent men permanently stained her hidden past. She believed she had outsmarted the world, confident that the fading wanted poster of her youth could never connect to the quiet, aging woman she had become. But while Lao had spent 2 decades remaining exactly the same, the world around her had drastically evolved. China had rapidly developed one of the most sophisticated, technologically advanced surveillance networks on the entire planet. In late 2019, her carefully constructed, decades-long illusion permanently shattered.
While simply walking through a busy, brightly lit shopping mall in the city of Xiamen, an artificial intelligence security camera scanned the massive sea of faces. In a fraction of a second, the advanced facial recognition software pierced through 20 years of aging and fake names, matching her biometric data to the notorious 1999 murder warrant. The police quietly swooped in, arresting the deeply bewildered woman who truly believed she was untouchable. Her capture finally closed one of the darkest chapters in modern criminal history, proving that no matter how deep you bury your past, the present will always find a way to violently unearth it. But while these two ruthless killers hunted their victims one by one, our next story proves that the most devastating massacres do not always happen in dark, secluded alleyways. Imagine trusting a massive, wealthy corporation to safely nourish your newborn baby, completely unaware that they are secretly pumping pure, deadly poison into every single bottle.
Number 5. The Sanlu milk poisoning scandal. The terrifying reality of trusting a massive, wealthy corporation to safely nourish your newborn baby, completely unaware that they are secretly pumping pure, deadly poison into every single bottle, is exactly what devastated hundreds of thousands of families during the 2008 Sanlu milk scandal. Across the rapidly developing nation of China, parents placed their ultimate faith in the Sanlu Group, a giant state-backed dairy corporation that promised premium nutrition for the next generation. Mothers and fathers, many working exhausting hours in factories and offices to build a better future, spent their hard-earned money on this specific baby formula, believing it was the absolute best choice for their fragile infants. It was heavily advertised as a product that would make their children grow up strong, healthy, and highly intelligent. But behind the glossy marketing campaigns and the trusted brand name, a sinister, deeply calculated deception was quietly unfolding on an industrial scale. The dairy industry was under immense pressure to keep costs incredibly low while simultaneously showing exceptionally high protein levels in their products. Instead of actually improving the quality of the milk, a network of greedy suppliers and negligent corporate executives decided to cut a lethal corner. They began secretly lacing the raw milk supply with a synthetic chemical called melamine. This industrial compound is typically used in the manufacturing of durable plastics, heavily treated laminates, and strong commercial adhesives. It has absolutely no place in the human body, let alone the developing, highly sensitive digestive system of a tiny infant. However, melamine is extremely rich in nitrogen. When government regulators and safety inspectors ran standard chemical tests, the melamine falsely registered as high-quality protein, completely fooling the safety checks and allowing the contaminated milk to flow directly onto supermarket shelves. As the toxic formula flooded into homes across the vast country, a silent, agonizing epidemic began to spread through the nurseries of innocent families. What would you do if the very food you trusted to keep your fragile infant alive was secretly destroying them from the inside out? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If this mystery already has a grip on you, please drop a like on this video. The horrifying symptoms these
As the summer months approached, pediatric wards across the country began to fill with frantic, terrified parents carrying their screaming infants. Doctors were entirely baffled by the sudden, unprecedented surge in severe medical emergencies among babies who were only a few months old. These tiny victims were suffering from agonizing abdominal pain, vomiting, and a complete inability to pass urine. When physicians finally conducted ultrasound examinations, they were met with a medical impossibility. These fragile infants had developed massive, hardened kidney stones, a painful condition almost exclusively seen in adults. As more and more desperately ill babies flooded the emergency rooms, a chilling common denominator rapidly emerged. Every single sick child was being fed the exact same brand of Sanlu milk formula. The synthetic plastic chemical, once ingested, was crystallizing inside their tiny kidneys, violently blocking their urinary tracts and slowly causing total organ failure. Despite the mounting medical evidence and the desperate cries of grieving parents, the giant corporation chose the path of absolute silence and deliberate denial. Fearing a massive public relations disaster, especially with the global spotlight shining on the upcoming Beijing Olympics, executives actively suppressed the terrifying truth. They received numerous complaints and internal warnings, but deliberately chose to keep the deadly product on the market for several more agonizing months. By the time the massive corporate cover-up finally shattered and the government intervened, the sheer scale of the tragedy was almost impossible to comprehend. Nearly 300,000 innocent babies had been severely poisoned by the very formula meant to nourish them.
Thousands were hospitalized in critical condition, and tragically, several infants lost their lives in unimaginable pain. What pushes a wealthy corporate executive to prioritize financial profits over the lives of hundreds of thousands of defenseless children? Tell me what you think in the comments below. Drop a like if you are stunned by the sheer calculated evil of this crime. The swift and brutal justice that rained down on these corrupt businessmen will leave you entirely speechless.
The immense public outrage that erupted when the truth finally broke was unlike anything the nation had ever seen. Grieving, furious parents demanded absolute retribution for the irreversible damage inflicted upon their children. The government, facing a catastrophic crisis of public trust, launched a massive, sweeping criminal investigation into the entire national dairy industry. The shocking probe revealed that Sanlu was not the only offender. Numerous other massive dairy giants had also been secretly utilizing the plastic chemical to falsely boost their financial profits. However, as the primary architect of this unprecedented disaster, the top executives at Sanlu faced the most severe, unforgiving consequences. The courtroom trials were highly publicized and emotionally devastating, as the people responsible for the mass poisoning were finally forced to face the weeping mothers and fathers whose lives they had permanently destroyed. The highest-ranking chairwoman of the massive corporation, who actively participated in the extensive months-long cover-up, was sentenced to life in a brutal prison. But for the men who directly manufactured and distributed the toxic chemical powder, knowing exactly what it would be used for, the punishment was absolute. 2 of the key figures were swiftly sentenced to death and executed, paying the ultimate final price for their imaginable greed. The 2008 milk scandal remains the darkest food safety disaster in modern history, completely devastating the domestic dairy market for over a decade. It forever altered the way a nation feeds its children, creating a lasting panic that drove desperate parents to empty international supermarket shelves and leaving a permanent scar on a generation of families who simply trusted the wrong label. But while corporate executives poison strangers for financial gain, our next story proves that lethal jealousy can thrive among the most highly educated minds. Imagine studying alongside the brightest scholars at an elite, prestigious university, completely unaware that a minor, trivial disagreement is about to end your life with a stolen, untraceable chemical hidden right inside your own dorm room.
Number 6. Fudan University Poisoning. The terrifying reality of studying alongside the brightest scholars at an elite, prestigious university, completely unaware that a minor, trivial disagreement is about to end your life with a stolen, untraceable chemical hidden right inside your own dorm room, unfolded at China's renowned Fudan University in the spring of 2013. Fudan University in Shanghai is a beacon of academic excellence, a place where only the most exceptional minds gather to shape the future of medicine and science. Among these brilliant individuals was Huang Yang, a dedicated, highly ambitious medical student who was just weeks away from completing his master's degree. He was widely liked, deeply respected by his peers, and stood on the absolute threshold of a promising career in healing others. He shared a cramped, unremarkable dormitory room with Lin Senhao, another incredibly gifted medical student. To the outside world, they were 2 sides of the same academic coin, destined for greatness. But within the claustrophobic walls of their shared living space, a silent, toxic resentment was slowly brewing. The friction between the 2 young men was not born of grand betrayals or deep-seated hatred. It was fueled by the mundane, trivial annoyances of daily life. Minor disagreements over personal habits and fleeting petty arguments festered in the dark corners of Lin's mind, twisting his brilliance into something deeply sinister. While Huang focused intensely on his upcoming examinations, completely oblivious to the danger sleeping just a few feet away, Lin was quietly utilizing his extensive medical knowledge to meticulously plot a flawless execution. On the morning of April 1st, Huang woke up feeling completely normal. He followed his usual routine, walking over to the shared water dispenser in their room to pour himself a glass of water. He took a long drink, entirely unaware that the clear liquid flowing down his throat was laced with a highly restricted, incredibly lethal chemical compound. Within hours, his body began to aggressively shut down. What pushes a brilliant mind studying to save lives to
to suddenly orchestrate.
The terrifying medical mystery that baffled the greatest doctors in the country began the moment Huang Yang collapsed in agonizing pain. He was rushed to the emergency room at the university's affiliated hospital, the very institution where he had spent years studying to heal the sick. His symptoms were violently aggressive and entirely unexplainable. His liver was rapidly failing, his skin turned a sickly yellow hue, and he was completely unable to breathe on his own. The elite medical staff, many of whom were his own professors, worked frantically around the clock, running every conceivable test to identify the mysterious pathogen destroying his healthy body. Every single result came back negative. As Huang slipped into an irreversible coma, his desperate family gathered around his hospital bed, watching helplessly as their bright, promising son slowly faded away before their eyes. Throughout this agonizing ordeal, Lin Zhenhao remained a quiet, observant presence. He visited his dying roommate in the intensive care unit, standing among the grieving family and the bewildered medical team. He watched the medical monitors flash and beep, fully aware of the exact synthetic poison coursing through Huang's veins, yet he offered absolutely no help, no confession, and not a single shred of remorse. His terrifying ability to stand calmly in the room while the man he poisoned fought for his final breaths showcased a level of psychopathic detachment that would later horrify the entire nation. The perfect crime finally unraveled when another medical student recalled a highly toxic compound called N-nitrosodimethylamine, a substance used in laboratory research to induce severe liver damage in testing mice. He immediately alerted authorities, prompting a massive police investigation that quickly zeroed in on the university laboratories. Detectives discovered that Lin had recently requested access to this exact heavily restricted chemical. The invisible weapon had finally been identified. How can someone watch a person they lived with suffer in absolute agony and completely refuse to provide the antidote that could save their life? Tell me what you think in the comments below. Drop a like if you are stunned by the sheer calculated evil of this crime. The chilling confession that finally broke the silence will completely shatter your understanding of human empathy.
The chilling confession that broke the silence shattered the prestigious academic facade of Fudan University forever. Armed with undeniable forensic evidence matching the chemical found in the dormitory water dispenser to the laboratory supply, the police swiftly arrested Lin Zhenhao. Sitting under the harsh, blinding lights of the interrogation room, the brilliant medical student finally abandoned his elaborate lies and coldly detailed his fatal plot. The entire nation held its breath, expecting to hear a motive rooted in a massive, unforgivable betrayal. Instead, the truth was terrifyingly mundane. Lin confessed that the brutal murder was the simple result of everyday friction. He disliked Huang's personality, claiming he was far too arrogant, and was deeply annoyed by a seemingly harmless April Fool's joke Huang had planned. To punish his roommate for these trivial grievances, Lin stole the deadly chemical from the lab and quietly tipped it into the water supply, turning a simple drink into a weapon of total organ failure. On April 16, 2013, after agonizing weeks of fighting a battle he could never win, Huang tragically passed away. The revelation that an elite medical student, trained to preserve life at all costs, would use his advanced knowledge to commit an undetectable murder sent a massive shockwave across society. It sparked intense national debates about the extreme psychological pressure placed on university students and the hidden cost of relentless academic competition. Lin Zhenhao was brought before the court, entirely stripped of his medical future, and confronted by the weeping parents whose lives he had completely destroyed over a petty squabble. Despite numerous appeals and highly controversial public debates, the justice system showed absolutely no mercy to the man who abused the tools of healing to deal death. Lin was officially executed in 2015. The case remains a haunting reminder that the most dangerous weapon is often a brilliant mind corrupted by silent resentment. But while a medical student used an invisible poison to settle a minor dispute, our next story proves that some grudges demand an entirely different scale of absolute destruction. Imagine nursing a bitter family conflict, only to decide that the only way to settle the score.
Number 7. The Shijiazhuang bombings. The chilling reality of nursing a bitter family conflict, only to decide that the only way to settle the score
is to obliterate 4 entire apartment buildings in the dead of night, burying over 100 innocent sleeping souls under mountains of concrete and fire, became a horrifying reality in the spring of 2001. The industrial city of Shijiazhuang was a bustling hub of hard-working families, tightly knit communities, and massive residential complexes. On the freezing night of March 16th, thousands of ordinary people were fast asleep in their warm beds, entirely oblivious to the monumental catastrophe rapidly approaching their doorsteps. They were resting before another long day of work in school, trusting the solid brick walls of their homes to keep them safe from the outside world. But the threat was not an act of international warfare or a coordinated political terror strike. The architect of this unprecedented slaughter was a single, deeply disturbed man named Jin Ruchao. He was not driven by religious fanaticism or grand ideological goals. He was consumed by something far more mundane and terrifyingly common: pure, unadulterated domestic rage. Jin harbored a deep, venomous hatred for his ex-wife and his stepmother, blaming them entirely for his miserable life and his recent financial failures. Instead of walking away or seeking a peaceful resolution to his family grievances, his mind fractured into an abyss of absolute, homicidal vengeance. He decided that erasing his enemies was not enough. He needed to completely annihilate the very ground they walked on. Over the course of several weeks, he methodically acquired massive quantities of highly volatile, illegal explosives from underground black markets, stockpiling enough raw destructive power to level a small military compound. On that fateful, quiet night, he quietly moved through the sleeping city like a phantom of death, planting the massive chemical charges at the foundations of 4 separate, densely populated residential buildings where his relatives resided. What level of absolute darkness must consume a human soul to justify slaughtering dozens of innocent children just to silence?
The unimaginable nightmare that erupted just before dawn shattered the peaceful silence of Shijiazhuang with a deafening, apocalyptic roar. At precisely 4:15 in the morning, a massive, synchronized series of detonations ripped through the sleeping city. The sheer concussive force of the blasts was so immensely powerful that it registered on distant seismic equipment as a minor earthquake. In the blink of an eye, the solid foundations of 4 towering apartment blocks completely vaporized, causing thousands of tons of concrete, steel, and glass to violently collapse onto the families trapped inside. The sky instantly turned thick with choking gray dust and the acrid smell of burning chemicals, blocking out the stars and plunging the chaotic streets into total darkness. Panic erupted as survivors stumbled out of neighboring buildings, completely disoriented and bleeding, frantically staring at the smoking craters where their friends used to live. The catastrophic scale of the destruction was unprecedented in modern history. First responders, firefighters, and thousands of desperate civilian volunteers clawed furiously at the massive mountains of jagged rubble with their bare hands, desperately listening for the faint cries of the men, women, and children buried alive underneath. As the sun slowly rose over the devastated landscape, the true agonizing scope of Jin Ruchao's domestic vengeance was fully revealed to a traumatized nation. Entire families had been permanently erased in a fraction of a second, their lives extinguished before they even had a chance to wake up. The rescue operations transformed into a grueling, heartbreaking recovery mission as emergency crews pulled body after body from the crushed concrete tombs. It was a scene of unparalleled devastation, resembling a war zone rather than a quiet residential neighborhood. How could anyone physically light the fuses, fully knowing they were instantly condemning over 100 sleeping strangers to a crushing, agonizing death? Tell me what you think in the comments below. Drop a like if you are stunned by the sheer calculated evil of this crime. The frantic nationwide manhunt for this mass murderer is a story of absolute desperation and cinematic tension.
The frantic nationwide manhunt for this mass murderer instantly became the highest priority for every law enforcement agency. The devastating casualty toll stood at a staggering 108 innocent people dead, with nearly 40 others severely injured. The authorities rapidly identified Jinru Chao through his obvious connections to the targeted buildings and the trail of evidence he left behind while purchasing the explosives. Recognizing the extreme danger of a man with absolutely nothing left to lose, the government launched an unprecedented dragnet. Millions of wanted posters were plastered across train stations, bus terminals, and public squares nationwide. Checkpoints were established on every major highway, and the nation was placed on high alert, deeply terrified that the rogue bomber would strike again. For several agonizing days, Jin managed to evade capture, slipping through the massive police net by utilizing his knowledge of the terrain and traveling constantly under the cover of darkness. However, the sheer magnitude of his horrific crime meant there was nowhere he could truly hide. The entire population was actively hunting him. In less than a week, his desperate run finally ended when vigilant civilians in the coastal city of Beihai spotted the weary fugitive and instantly alerted the police forces. He was swiftly captured without incident, his reign of apocalyptic terror extinguished. During his trial, Jin displayed absolutely no remorse for the mountains of corpses he created, coldly stating he simply wanted to eliminate the people who had wronged him. He was rapidly convicted and executed shortly after, cementing his legacy as the architect of the deadliest mass murder in Chinese history. The massive scars left on the city of Shijiazhuang will never fully heal, standing as a chilling monument to the devastating potential of uncontrolled human rage. But while this killer relied on massive explosions in the dead of night, our next story proves that terror can strike right in the bright morning sun. Imagine simply stepping out of a bank with your hard-earned money in the middle of a busy city, unaware that a phantom sniper is quietly waiting in the shadows, ready to turn your daily errand into a bloody public execution.
Number 8. Zhou Kehua. The terrifying scenario of simply stepping out of a bank with your hard-earned money in the middle of a busy city, entirely unaware that a phantom sniper is quietly waiting in the shadows, ready to turn your daily errand into a bloody public execution, was the exact nightmare Zhou Kehua unleashed upon China for nearly a decade. For millions of ordinary citizens, a trip to the bank is a routine chore, a brief moment of handling cash before returning to the safety of home. But from 2004 to 2012, this mundane task became a deadly gamble. Zhou Kehua was not a crime boss surrounded by an army of loyal henchmen, nor was he a desperate thief making impulsive, chaotic decisions. He was a solitary, highly disciplined apex predator who hunted exclusively in the concrete jungles of China's megacities. His method was terrifyingly consistent and brutally efficient. He would spend days quietly blending into the bustling environment outside financial institutions, patiently watching the endless stream of customers. He possessed an uncanny ability to identify targets carrying large sums of cash. When the perfect victim emerged through the heavy glass doors, Zhou would strike with military precision. He did not issue demands or shout warnings. He simply walked up to the unsuspecting target, raised a concealed firearm, and pulled the trigger at point-blank range. As the victim collapsed to the pavement in a sudden pool of blood, he would calmly pick up the cash and melt back into the screaming crowd, completely vanishing before the sirens even began to wail. He transformed bright mornings into scenes of unimaginable carnage, stealing not just money, but the fundamental sense of public safety. How does a single man manage to execute a high-profile robbery in broad daylight and simply evaporate into a crowd of terrified witnesses? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If this mystery already has a grip on you, please drop a like on this video. The extreme, paranoid lengths he went to in order to avoid the massive police dragnet will leave you completely astounded.
The extreme, paranoid lengths he went to in order to avoid the massive police dragnet turned Zhou Kehua into a literal ghost. After each assassination, authorities would immediately lock down the city, setting up heavy checkpoints on every major road and meticulously scanning thousands of hours of surveillance footage. Yet the phantom killer repeatedly slipped through their fingers. His incredible evasion tactics were born out of a rigorous, almost feral survivalist mentality. Unlike modern criminals who leave digital footprints everywhere they go, Zhou completely disconnected himself from the modern world. He absolutely refused to use mobile phones, completely eliminating the risk of cellular triangulation. He never checked into hotels or used his national identity card to purchase train tickets. Instead, he utilized the vast, unforgiving wilderness to his advantage. After executing a target in the city, he would flee into the dense, heavily forested mountains on foot. He slept in abandoned caves, hidden ravines, and even silent graveyards, enduring freezing temperatures and harsh conditions just to remain entirely off the grid. As years dragged on, his death toll climbed to over 10 innocent lives across multiple provinces, including Jiangsu and Chongqing. He became officially recognized as China's absolute most wanted man. The sheer terror he inflicted on the public was paralyzing. People became terrified to withdraw their salaries, constantly looking over their shoulders for a man in a dark cap waiting to end their lives for paper cash. The government realized they were not dealing with a simple bank robber. They were hunting a highly trained, deeply elusive phantom who thoroughly understood police tactics and actively anticipated their every move. What kind of psychological endurance does it take to live like a hunted wild animal in the mountains just to continue a relentless killing spree? Tell me what you think in the comments below. Drop a like if you are stunned by the sheer calculated evil of this crime. The unprecedented military-style operation finally launched to corner this urban sniper will completely take your breath away.
The unprecedented military-style operation finally launched to corner this urban sniper became the largest, most intense hunt in modern Chinese history. In August 2012, Zhou Kehua made a critical, fatal mistake in the sprawling mountainous municipality of Chongqing. During another brazen robbery, he was intercepted by a dedicated railway police officer. In the ensuing struggle, Zhou fatally shot the officer, elevating his threat level to an absolute national emergency. The government's response was overwhelming and absolute. Tens of thousands of heavily armed police officers and regular military personnel flooded the region. They formed massive, impenetrable perimeters around the rugged mountains where he was believed to be hiding. Helicopters with thermal cameras scoured the canopy from above, while search dogs and tactical teams combed through every single cave and forested ravine. The entire city of Chongqing essentially went into a state of martial lockdown. The tension was suffocating as millions of residents locked their doors, waiting for the final, inevitable confrontation. The terrifying game of cat and mouse finally reached its violent conclusion on the early morning of August 14th. Two highly trained plainclothes detectives were quietly patrolling a narrow alleyway when they spotted a man perfectly matching the phantom's description. As they cautiously approached, Zhou immediately realized he was finally cornered. He drew his weapon and fired, initiating a frantic, desperate gunfight at close range. In the exchange of bullets, the detectives struck the notorious killer, fatally wounding him and instantly ending his decade-long reign of terror. The massive sigh of relief that washed over the nation was palpable. The phantom sniper was finally dead, his reign of bloody public executions permanently halted. But while this phantom sniper was eventually gunned down in a bustling alleyway, our next story proves that some monsters can hide in plain sight for nearly 3 decades. Imagine being a young woman wearing a bright red dress, entirely unaware that a vicious predator is tracking your every move, preparing to unleash a reign of terror so gruesome it would haunt the police for a quarter of a century before Number 9. Gao Chengyong. The terrifying scenario of being a young woman wearing a bright red dress, entirely unaware that a vicious predator is tracking your every move, preparing to unleash a reign of terror so gruesome it would haunt the police for a quarter of a century before a simple drop of family blood finally exposed his identity, became a blood-soaked reality in the industrial city of Beijing. In the late 1980s, this quiet working-class municipality in northwestern China was suddenly plunged into an era of unprecedented, paralyzing fear. A shadow was stalking the dim, narrow alleyways, hunting with an insatiable, sadistic appetite. His targets were very specific. He meticulously stalked young women, often choosing victims who were wearing the color red. He would silently follow them to their homes, striking the moment they unlocked their doors and stepped inside, turning their ultimate safe havens into absolute slaughterhouses. Between 1988 and 2002, 11 innocent women were systematically hunted down and violently murdered by this elusive phantom. The sheer brutality of his methods quickly earned him a terrifying moniker across the nation, the Chinese Jack the Ripper. He did not simply kill his victims, he completely desecrated them.
After inflicting unspeakable sexual violence, he would heavily mutilate their bodies, leaving behind crime scenes so excessively gory that they deeply traumatized the seasoned detectives who discovered them. The city of Baiyin descended into complete hysteria. Women absolutely refused to walk alone after sunset. The color red, traditionally a symbol of joy and good fortune in Chinese culture, was suddenly completely abandoned. Wardrobes were frantically purged of anything that might attract the attention of the monster lurking in the shadows. Husbands and fathers escorted their loved ones everywhere, constantly looking over their shoulders for a killer who seemed to be entirely invisible. How does an entire city function when half its population is absolutely terrified of a single color?
The frustrating dead ends and the sudden, chilling silence that followed deeply haunted the local authorities for decades. Despite massive citywide investigations, endless suspect interviews, and heavily increased police patrols, the elusive predator always remained one step ahead. He was meticulous, careful, and entirely ruthless. He left behind physical evidence, including fingerprints and genetic material. But in the 1990s, China's forensic databases were still in their infancy. Without a direct match to compare it to, the killer's biological signature was nothing more than a useless string of scientific data sitting in a cold, dusty file. And then, in 2002, after 14 years of relentless bloodshed and 11 violently extinguished lives, the murders just abruptly stopped. The Chinese Jack the Ripper simply vanished into the massive population without a single trace. For years, the police desperately wondered if he had died, if he had been imprisoned for a different unrelated crime, or if he had simply moved to a new hunting ground. The horrific cold case cast a long, dark shadow over the grieving families, who were painfully denied any sense of justice or closure. As the agonizing decades slowly rolled by, the terrifying legend of the Baiyin serial killer slowly faded into a dark, cautionary tale whispered to frightened children. But while the world slowly moved on, the deeply buried evidence patiently waited in the evidence lockers for science to finally catch up. The detectives who had initially worked the bloody scenes grew old and retired, passing the massive, unsolved files down to a new generation of investigators who refused to let the forgotten women be entirely erased from history. What possesses a vicious monster to commit such unspeakable atrocities for over a decade and then suddenly walk away, seamlessly blending back into a normal life? Tell me what you think in the comments below. Drop a like if you are stunned by the sheer calculated evil of this crime. The unbelievable accidental slip-up that finally brought him down 28 years later is something no one could have ever predicted.
The unbelievable accidental slip-up that finally brought him down 28 years later was not a result of cinematic detective work, but rather a simple, unavoidable twist of genetic fate. In 2016, a man in a neighboring city was arrested for a minor financial crime. As part of standard modern police procedure, his DNA was collected and run through the highly advanced National Criminal Database. The sophisticated computer system immediately flagged a deeply shocking anomaly. The minor criminal's Y chromosome was a near-perfect familial match to the genetic material left behind at the brutal Baiyin murder scenes decades prior. Authorities instantly realized the notorious serial killer belonged to the exact same extended family tree. They quietly began secretly testing male relatives, rapidly narrowing the massive search until the invisible net finally closed around a 52-year-old man named Chengyong. He was not hiding in a dark, heavily fortified bunker. He was calmly running a small grocery store, living a completely mundane life as a father of 2 sons. When heavily armed police violently swarmed his quiet shop, he did not fight back. He simply looked at the stern officers and calmly confessed to every single atrocity, finally unmasking the monster that terrorized a generation. In 2019, after 28 agonizing years, the grieving families watched the Chinese Jack the Ripper face his absolute execution, closing one of the most chilling chapters in true crime history. But while this predator exclusively hunted lone women in city streets, our final story reveals a monster of an entirely different magnitude. Imagine living in a quiet, isolated village, completely unaware that a bloodthirsty phantom is slipping through the dark fields, preparing to silently slaughter your entire family in their beds just for the sheer sadistic thrill of the kill.
Number 10. Young Xinhai. The terrifying scenario of living in a quiet, isolated village, completely unaware that a bloodthirsty phantom is slipping through the dark fields, preparing to silently slaughter your entire family in their beds just for the sheer sadistic thrill of the kill, became the apocalyptic reality for rural China at the turn of the millennium. Between 1999 and 2003, an invisible force of pure, unadulterated evil swept across the agricultural heartlands of 4 different provinces. The remote farming communities were places where people never locked their doors. They relied on their neighbors, shared their harvests, and slept deeply after long, exhausting days of labor under the sun. But this profound sense of pastoral security was violently shattered by a lone, drifting predator named Xinhai. He was not a sophisticated criminal mastermind or a disgruntled man seeking revenge. He was an absolute anomaly of human nature, a roaming void devoid of empathy, driven only by an insatiable hunger for suffering. As the sun dipped below the horizon, plunging the vast farmlands into pitch blackness, Yang would begin his silent, predatory crawl. He intentionally targeted the most vulnerable, isolated farmhouses, places situated far from the main roads and the protective eyes of local police forces. He patiently waited in the tall crops, observing the warm glow of the windows extinguishing one by one as the unsuspecting families drifted into slumber. The absolute silence of the rural night became his perfect accomplice. He possessed a terrifying ability to infiltrate these humble homes without making a single sound, crossing the threshold from the quiet night into the sacred space of sleeping children and exhausted parents. How could a single man manage to extinguish entire generations under one roof without a single neighbor hearing a scream? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If this mystery already has a grip on you, please drop a like on this video. The sheer scale of the carnage he left behind before the sun rose completely shattered the nation's understanding of human depravity. When dawn broke over the isolated villages, neighbors would slowly realize that the families next door were not waking up to tend to their morning chores. The horrific discoveries that followed plunged the countryside into a state of absolute, paralyzing hysteria. Xinhai did not simply rob these vulnerable homes, he systematically and brutally annihilated every living soul inside. Using heavy iron hammers, axes, and meat cleavers he scavenged from the properties, he moved from room to room, silencing mothers, fathers, and tiny children before they could even open their eyes to comprehend the nightmare. The pure, unchecked savagery of his nocturnal raids earned him the chilling title of the Monster Killer. Over the agonizing span of 4 years, he executed an unprecedented reign of terror, claiming the lives of 67 innocent people and committing 23 horrific sexual assaults. The vast, scattered nature of his hunting grounds made him incredibly difficult to track. He moved constantly, utilizing the massive network of dirt roads on a simple bicycle, entirely avoiding heavily monitored train stations. Local police forces were completely overwhelmed by the slaughter. Entire farming communities fortified themselves, barricading their doors with heavy furniture, organizing sleepless neighborhood watch patrols, and clutching weapons in the dark, absolutely terrified that the roaming phantom would choose their doorstep next. He was a ghost who only materialized to deliver death, leaving behind crime scenes so excessively brutal that seasoned investigators struggled to process the evil staring back at them. What goes through the mind of a predator as they silently stand over a sleeping family, deciding to erase their entire bloodline just for twisted amusement? Tell me what you think in the comments below. Drop a like if you are stunned by the sheer calculated evil of this crime. The chilling words he spoke when he was finally dragged into the light will freeze the blood in your veins.
The chilling words he spoke when he was finally dragged into the light froze the blood in the veins of an entire nation. In late 2003, after 4 years of orchestrating the deadliest killing spree in the modern history of China, the invisible monster made a critical error. During a routine police inspection at an entertainment venue in Hebei province, officers noticed a suspicious, unkempt man behaving erratically. When they detained him and processed his information, a DNA test instantly linked his genetic profile to the sprawling network of farmhouses. The phantom had finally been given a face,
and the panicked countryside could exhale a breath of relief. When young Xinhai was securely chained in the interrogation room, investigators braced themselves for a psychological justification or a bitter tale of societal rejection. Instead, they were met with a terrifyingly blank, hollow stare. During his highly publicized trial, he offered absolutely no apologies, shed no tears for the dozens of innocent children he slaughtered, and displayed a level of cold detachment that defied human logic. When directly asked by the presiding judge why he committed such atrocities, his answer was horrifyingly simple and devoid of humanity. He plainly stated that he simply enjoyed killing people, comparing the act of exterminating a sleeping family to the task of stepping on innocent insects. He felt no guilt, only a sadistic pleasure in watching the life drain from his victims' eyes. In February 2004, the monster was finally executed, wiping his terrifying existence from the earth and bringing our dark journey to a close. The legacy of young Xinhai remains a permanent, bloody scar on the remote agricultural villages he once haunted. But while this list of horrors has concluded, the shadows of our world remain vast and deep. Imagine walking through a dense, fog-covered forest, completely unaware that the ancient trees are hiding a labyrinth of secret underground chambers where an entirely new breed of evil is patiently waiting for its next victim to simply wander off the designated path.